Greetings, system failure listeners. Nathan here with your weekly audio essay, this one entitled The Antonine Plague, and subtitled How a Pandemic Destroyed Rome's Economy and Belief Structures. This essay is part of a series comparing the twilights of 1. Rome's slave-based economic system, and 2. The Middle Ages feudal system, to 3. Today's capitalism. In addition to the broad life cycles of these economic systems, we'll compare similarities between infectious diseases and communication technology across all 3 eras. Finally, we'll see how belief systems rise and fall in tandems with these broad economic systems. When economic systems seize up and stop functioning, people begin to question and expose authority of all kinds, leading to the collapse of bedrock conceptions of reality itself. If it were not for the Black Death, the Antonine Plague might be the best-known pandemic in history. It tore through the Roman Empire between AD 165 and 180. This plague was either smallpox or measles, and it ripped through the whole empire with terrifying speed. The Antonine Plague marked a significant turning point in Roman history. It crippled the Roman economy, and by destroying public faith in the old pagan religious authorities, led to the rise of Christianity. The Antonine Plague coincided with the reign of Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher-emperor. The crisis shaped his book Meditations, which reflects on morality and the fragility of life. It's no coincidence that this book is gaining popularity again after the COVID-19 pandemic. Since there was no separation between church and state in Roman times, the political and religious authorities were one and the same. And everyone could see that they were powerless to stop the plague. The sheer volume of suffering, death, and economic chaos caused Roman citizens to begin looking for explanations and hope outside the traditional Roman state religion. With its message of salvation and eternal life, Christianity offered comfort to those disillusioned by the failure of the old Roman gods to protect them. The Antonine Plague was a significant cause of Rome abandoning its ancestral religion and embracing Christianity. 1,200 years later, the Black Death caused a similar crisis of faith. By then, the Roman Catholic Church had calcified into a rigid authority, and, like the Roman authorities who preceded them, it was utterly powerless to stop the plague. People lost faith in authority, and the Renaissance and the Reformation were the ultimate results. Additionally, during the recent COVID-19 pandemic, large swaths of the population lost faith in our modern institutions of authority. Though the death toll was minute compared to the Black Death or the Antonine Plague, the damage to trust in authority was every bit as significant. The consequences will be as historically important as the Black Death or the Antonine Plague. The Antonine Plague marked a significant turning point in the history of the Roman Empire, with long-lasting effects on its population, economy, military, and social structures. The demographic and economic toll of the plague strained the empire in ways that caused its long-term decline. It played a critical role in exposing and exacerbating the vulnerabilities that led to the rise of Christianity and the collapse of the Roman Empire in the West. And for further materials attached to this essay, I have a quote here by the always loquacious Will and Ariel Durant from their 1944 book Caesar and Christ. Lucius brought with him the invisible victor of the war, pestilence. It had first appeared among the troops of Avidius and captured Seleucia. It spread so rapidly that he withdrew his army into Mesopotamia while the Parthians rejoiced at the vengeance of their gods. The retreating legions carried the plague with them into Syria. Lucius took some of these soldiers to Rome to march in his triumph, and they infected every city through which they passed and every region of the empire to which they were later assigned. The ancient historians tell us more of its ravages than of its nature. Their descriptions suggest exophthalmosis, typhus, or possibly bubonic plague. Galen thought it similar to the disease that had wasted the Athenians under Pericles. In both cases, black pustules almost covered the body. The victim was racked with a hoarse cough, and his breath stank. Rapidly, it swept through Asia Minor, Egypt, Greece, Italy, and Gaul. Within a year, it had killed more men than had been lost in the war. In Rome, 2,000 died of it in one day, including many of the aristocracy. Corpses were carried out of the city in heaps. Marcus, helpless before this intangible enemy, did all he could to mitigate the evil, but the medical science of his day could offer him no guidance, and the epidemic ran its course until it had established an immunity or had killed all its carriers. The effects were endless. Many localities were so despoiled of population that they reverted to jungle or desert. Food production fell. Transport was disorganized. Floods destroyed great quantities of grain, and famine succeeded plague. The happy hilaritas that had marked the beginning of Marcus' reign vanished. Men yielded to a bewildered pessimism, flocked to soothsayers and oracles, clouded the altars with incense and sacrifice, and sought consolation where alone it was offered them, in the new religions of personal immortality and heavenly peace. Alrighty, folks, that's your audio essay for this week. I will be back with Brian on Monday for another full-length regular edition of System Failure. And at this, the conclusion of the podcast, we always invite you, our valued listeners, to log on to nop.substack.com if you'd like to subscribe to our weekly essays, like the one you just heard, or read past weekly essays. And additionally, if you have any comments on what you hear here on System Failure, then do send us an email at nop@substack.com, and we shall be sure to read it on the air. Alrighty, folks, we'll talk to you soon.